So are we reading a health exception into the bill, into the penal law?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, we should probably put that in the bill then, I would suggest. What do you think?
I believe it is in the bill.
Okay. I don't see it there. I don't read it there. It does say penal law is hereby repealed to the extent that they are inconsistent with this section, but I don't see the part where it reads in a health exception. But if you see it, we'll go with that.
Good.
Conceding to you, Ms. Blake. Let me take a look here, see what else. Other sections of the penal law. So section 125.15, manslaughter in the second degree. A person is guilty of manslaughter in the second degree when he commits upon a female an abortional act which causes her death unless such abortional act is justifiable pursuant to subdivision 3 of section 125.05. So is that consistent? That's still, we're not repealing that section, are we?
No. We're not repealing it. Which section were you referencing?
That was section 125.15, manslaughter in the second degree.
It's whether... It was section 125E, did you say?
No, 125.15, manslaughter in second degree. A person is guilty of manslaughter in the second degree when, and then there's two sections there, he recklessly causes the death of another person, or he commits upon a female an abortional act which causes her death unless such abortional act is justifiable pursuant to subdivision 3 of section 125.05, which we just talked about.
Yeah, that would be repealed. There might be, we do not consider it manslaughter if there is an abortion committed that results in someone's death unless negligence is involved.
Okay. So I don't see the negligence part here. Can you point that out to me? I mean, the only...
The issue is whether or not it would be lawful under Roe v. Wade.
Okay. So whether or not it's a justifiable abortional act, again, I guess then what you're saying is we're reading the health exception into the penal law.
To the extent that the penal law is inconsistent with this section of law, it is repealed.
I understand that, and I know you understand that, but I know that you know that there's nothing inconsistent about that in the penal law. The only inconsistency in the penal law is that there's no health exception. And I think probably what you want to do, and what you said before, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but the health exception, a more detailed bill that actually addresses the problems with the penal law would be a better way to go than just saying Roe v. Wade is the law of the land.
Well, you know, I actually think it's fine. I think people understand that federal law includes a health exception, and we don't have one in New York state law, and we believe we should have a health exception, not just the life of the mother, but the health of the mother. And the health of the mother may include things like preserving her ability to have, protect her reproductive organs so that she can have subsequent pregnancies. There are circumstances that occur in which a woman's reproductive health could be at risk. An ectopic pregnancy is one of those. So you want to ensure that a woman's health is also part of New York state law. That's what this bill does.
Absolutely, and because of federal law and the Supreme Court ruling, that's already the case. Well, I'd like to keep going.
Next.
Is anybody else up?
You can come back, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. DiPietro. Can we clear that aisle over there where the debaters are? Excuse me. Excuse me. Proceed, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today, as I have in years past, to encourage my colleagues to vote against this ungodly legislation in order to protect the sanctity and dignity of human life. There is no more debate over life in the womb. As technology has advanced, it is impossible for those who support the taking of innocent lives to feign ignorance about the human life in the womb. No longer can they claim the life is just a random collection of cells. With the new 3D and 4D ultrasounds, it becomes a self-evident truth that this is a human being. Under the light of the ultrasound, the truth is revealed. This is life. This is why I sponsor legislation each year that would require an ultrasound be done before an abortion can take place. Every piece of information should be made available to the women making these decisions. They should see the human life that hangs in the balance of their decision. Studies have shown 70% of mothers who see the ultrasound choose to keep the baby. Did you know that 80% of fathers, when they see the ultrasound, want to keep the baby? That's right, a baby. Do you know the legal definition of death is when the heart stops beating? Wouldn't it be common sense then that life begins when the heart's beating? There is no common sense in this law. To me, it's just murder. Instead of empowering women for all the resources necessary to make a decision, the pro-abortion crowd seeks the comfort of the dark shadows, like rats scurrying to holes in the wall when the light of truth shines on them. It's easier to mock my legislation to save lives than it is to change the culture of death that surrounds the abortion industry. I'm tough enough to handle it, for what I go through is nothing compared to being chopped up and dismembered by forceps, and then pieces of eyes, fingers.
Mr. Blake, why do you rise?
Will my colleague yield for just a question?
Not at this time, sir. I will after.
Not at this time, sir.
Okay.
And then the pieces of eyes, fingers, legs, mouths, heads, toes, and all other body parts vacuumed up and out into the garbage. For something to be a choice, there have to be multiple options present, and the person making the decision should have all available information. This shouldn't be a controversial opinion or a controversial bill, but the pro-death crowd and members of this assembly refuse to allow women any help. They refuse to allow women a choice to see a sonogram. They refuse to allow women a choice to seek counseling. In matters of life and death, which this is, all information should be considered before a decision is rendered. Make no mistake, this is a decision between life and death. This is a choice between killing and living. The only way a procedure as brutal and disfiguring as abortion can continue to exist is through the ignorance of those involved. Cold, calculated medical terms have fostered an environment that endangers human life. To this day, a human being in the womb has never transformed into something else. It doesn't become a turtle. It doesn't become a plant. When you terminate a pregnancy, you ended a human life. As other states are moving to protect life, New York doubles down on ending it. Excuse me, sir. If we were to find the smallest cell on Mars with living material, it would be celebrated and preserved. But when it comes to here on Earth, we debate how late, up to when the baby is being pulled out of the womb, is it acceptable to murder a human life. We will no longer mince words, and I will not either. The ending of a human life is murder. Back in the day, King Ahaz sacrificed his sons and other children by throwing them into the fire as worship to pagan gods. Even today, the process hasn't abated. The sacrifice of children to the harsh gods of convenience, economy, and whim continues in sterile medical facilities in numbers that would astound the wicked King Ahaz. It is written very clearly, truly children are a gift. They are from the womb, and it is a reward. Let's talk about the baby. The bond between the mother and her baby is truly remarkable. While in the womb, babies begin learning language from their mothers. They also learn to recognize different words in the womb. After birth, they will still remember some of these words that they learned in the womb. Even being able to distinguish between their mother tongue and other languages. Fetuses may also respond to their mother's touch by displaying more movements as a way of communication. Did you know when the mother's heart is injured, stem cells from the fetus migrate to the injured site and repair the damage? Male babies leave traces of their DNA on the mother's brain, which protects the mother from Alzheimer's disease. It doesn't end here. Antibodies travel from the mother to her baby through the placenta. Breastfeeding boosts the baby's immune system before and after birth and protects the baby from deadly bacteria and viruses. And did you know after the baby is born, breast milk is customized according to the sex of the baby? Mothers produce different biological recipes for sons and daughters. In just 25 days of pregnancy, the heart chamber develops. In 32 days, arms and hands begin developing. 36 days begin the vertebrae development. The first 5 weeks are the most rapid in this child's life in the womb, in the first 5 weeks. At 6 weeks, brain waves are detectable. At 45 days, the heart is beating twice as fast as the mother's. Yes, that's a human heart, which means it's alive and well. At 7 weeks, eyelids and toes are forming, the nose is distinct, the baby is kicking and swimming. That is just the first 49 days. You can still receive an abortion for another 127 days. You want to tell me that's not life? Let me repeat. For 4 more months of growth, you can still receive an abortion. At week 8, every organ is in place. Bones begin to replace cartilage, and fingerprints form. Week 11, all organs are functioning, and the baby can grasp objects placed in its hand in the womb. At week 12, the baby has all the body parts capable of feeling pain. Nerves, spinal cord, thalamus, the vocal cords are complete, and the baby in the womb can suck its thumb. By the end of the 4th month, this unmistakably human life is 8 to 10 inches in length. The heart is pumping 25 quarts of blood a day and will weigh over half a pound. At week 18, the baby will begin to hear. At week 19, the baby can routinely be saved. Week 19, let's repeat that, the baby can routinely be saved. Doesn't need an abortion. At 20 weeks, this child feels pain, which we have just found out through science, and he feels every agonizing part of the inhumane abortion process. I have submitted a bill that all abortions must stop at 20 weeks, the pain bill. Where is it? My bill will never see the light of day here in New York, the abortion murder capital of the world. At 21 weeks, the baby can swallow. At week 23, the baby will develop taste buds, and at week 24, real hair. All of this development occurs during the period where abortion is still an option. How is this fair to life? During months 7 through 9, the baby is using 4 of their 5 senses: vision, hearing, taste, and touch. They know the difference between waking and sleeping, can relate to the mother's mood, and the heart is pumping 300 quarts of blood a day. Our innate human instinct of self-preservation does not begin outside the womb. During these horrific procedures, we know now, because of technology, the baby will actually turn away from the medical instruments. They try to save themselves from being ripped apart. They try to save themselves from being vacuumed up like common trash and debris. They want to live, and yet they've been sent to death. In 2008, Kathleen Sebelius, the governor of Kansas, a Catholic, was creating scandal by openly supporting unrestricted access to abortion. After 3 years of attempting to have a dialogue with her, she was publicly asked by Joseph Naumann, the Archbishop of Kansas City, Kansas, to refrain from receiving Holy Communion. Later that year, all 4 Kansas bishops joined Archbishop Naumann and issued a joint statement saying Catholics voting for candidates with pro-abortion position should cease calling themselves Catholic, as they are not following the Church's pro-life position and teaching. The results of this statement were strong and lasting. From 2010 on, Kansas went from 50-50 pro-life, pro-abortion state to solidly pro-life. Since Kansas is not heavily Catholic, it appears the bishop's statement obviously had a significant impact throughout Kansas and touched all faiths and citizens. I have reached out to Cardinal Dolan, the Bishop of Albany, and the Bishop of Buffalo, asking them to lead this charge in the abortion capital of the world, New York. My pleas have fallen on deaf ears. National Right to Life estimates the number of human lives ended by abortion to be more than 58 million since the Roe v. Wade decision. An unfathomable number of human lives. Instead of ending this infanticide, we focus our life-saving efforts on stripping Americans of our Second Amendment rights. Would save more human lives by employing an ultrasound than we would with any safe storage bill. Jeremiah 1:5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, you were set apart." I know most of you are not of faith. I know some of you follow other gods and religions. But for those who are curious, there is a passage in the Bible which sticks out in my mind. It uses the word woe, a very strong and powerful word, a very bad word used by God. It says, "If anyone causes one of these little ones, those who believe in me, to stumble, it would be better for them to have a large millstone hung around their neck and to be drowned in the depths of the sea. Woe to the world because of the things that cause people to stumble. Such things must come, but woe to the person through whom they come." I repeat, woe to the person to whom they come. We cannot and must not allow for this infanticide to continue. Every child deserves a chance at life, a chance to improve their well-being, a chance to be a part of our world. Let's come together and end this injustice. I will be voting in the negative, and Mr. Speaker, I encourage all of my friends here to do the same. Thank you.
Mr. Walter, for a second. Excuse me, Mr. Walter, hold 1 minute. Mr. Blake, for a first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm always amazed when I listen to men try to tell women what to do with their body. And I'm also always amazed about...
Thank you.
I'm always amazed with individuals who want to get selective with Scripture. Now, since I've been preaching for 20 years, allow me to be real clear about some of the things that were just conveyed right now. It was just shared by one of our members that most of you don't have faith. I don't understand how any of us would come into a chamber and actually try to convey that people do not have faith. It was also conveyed that the decisions being made here were ungodly. That was actually how the opening remarks began. I, again, don't understand how any individual would actually try to say that someone is ungodly for the decisions that they make. Now, at the same time, when we want to talk about being selective with choice, it is real clear to me that people have to decide, will you be hypocritical
DiPietro, why do you rise?
I just wonder if Mr. Blake would...
No, I will
Mr. Blake will...
I will certainly not yield, but thank you, sir. Now, let's continue on. Now, if we talk through the reasons why of being selective, I'm amazed when we talk about why a woman shouldn't have a choice about their faith and a choice about what to do with their own body. However, it would be the same persons who will try to convey that we would be selective about Scripture and sacrifice. If you want to talk about Scripture, then make sure you talk about all Scripture. In Genesis 22, it spoke about how God commanded Abraham to determine potentially to sacrifice his own son. I don't hear anyone talking about your selective decisions around choice. And if you were okay for a man to have choice, why are you not okay for a woman? I need you to truly understand the points that are being conveyed. I am not asking a question, Mr.
He is asking you a question.
No, he's not, sir. He's speaking. He is not yielding.
He's looking at me and asking me a
Mr.
direct
Speaker?
question.
Well,
May I respond?
yes,
Mr. Speaker, I believe the rules of the House say that we are not supposed to be directing at somebody, another member, and I believe that's what was happening right now. So if I could just remind everybody that we are supposed to be directing our comments to the Speaker, to the Chair, and not to separate individuals.
certainly a good admission, Ms. Corwin. The Speaker still does not yield. However, we will try to be as broadly discuss this issue as we can.
Absolutely.
Proceed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We further make sure that as we're assessing things collectively, I really ask that we take a step back to make sure that we're not being selective in how we're helping our particular communities. We seem to say that for some reasons it's okay for us to say, well, a woman shouldn't have choice on what to do with the child. Well, then make sure you talk about the whole life of the child. Are you actually going to make sure the child has food to eat and a community to be in and support to have and the economic and academic justices that occur? You cannot be selective on when you want to give a woman choice. So allow me to be very clear. As a man, it is ridiculous for me to tell a woman what to do with their body. I also want to take it to the next level. For someone like me, who my mother, who grew up in Jamaica, would often say, if it wasn't for Planned Parenthood to make sure that there was health opportunities there, what would happen to her when she was a teen mother? So I want you to be clear. Don't be selective with Scripture and think you can walk away with what happens. That is not what occurs for those that follow faith. That's not the person that will be. And I commend Ms. Glick for making sure you stand up for what's right. For all of us, whether you're a man, woman, or child, stand up for what's right, stand up for choice, and stand up for someone to do what they should do.
Mr. Castorina.
I'm not going to approach this argument from a religious perspective. I'm going to approach this argument from a human perspective. When we toss away life and we destroy life, viable life, at any stage, we diminish the value of human life. And when we diminish the value of human life, we diminish each one of us. Now, you hear a lot about choice, about a woman's choice. You hear a lot about a man not having a choice, a man not being in a position to have to make that choice or to have that responsibility. And yeah, there's some validity to the responsibility factor that lies after the sexual act and after the child is brought to term and there's nobody there to help raise the child, help support the child. That's a community issue. And that's very, very different from talking about the value and the sanctity of human life. I agree with Mr. Blake that the community should be there to help and support. I agree with Mr. Blake that we need to make sure that when children are...
Sir, we just asked for issues not to be
I apologize.
directed personally across.
I apologize.
Thank you. That's all right. I know you're on a maiden voyage.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. But as I indicated, when we throw away life at any stage in such a way where we just say, sure, you can just throw away this life, this soul, this being, what are we saying about humanity? What are we saying about each one of us? There's a sacredness to this life. There's a specialness, there's a solemnness, there's a value. And that value is something that we all know. It's inherent. But there's also something about personal responsibility that is very important. And there are choices in life, and unfortunately there are folks that do make the wrong choices or bad choices or inconvenient choices. But the answer to those inconvenient choices shouldn't be to discard life. Now, many of my friends and colleagues in this chamber, they look at many issues through the prism of race and gender, and I get that. So let me talk to you about this issue through that prism. Did you know that 78% of abortion clinics are in minority areas? Did you know that African Americans, who make up 12% of the population, make up 35% of all abortions in this country? Did you know that on the average, 1,876 African American babies are aborted every single day? I urge my friends and colleagues in the African American community to be very, very careful about this legislation, because we're talking about African American genocide. You hear me? Okay. But for Roe v. Wade, the African American community would be 36% larger than it currently is today. Did you know that? White women, they have, out of every 1,000 births, 138 abortions. Do you know how many abortions are had by black women out of every 1,000? 501. So we need our communities to come together and to band together and to make sure that we have the resources and the ability to take care of these babies. And we need to give women choices, real choices, so that they can bring babies to term and that they can have a life for these children and raise these children in our communities.
Mr. Pichardo, why do you rise?
Speaker, yield for just a really,
Mr.
really short question.
Castorina, will you yield?
Not at the moment.
Mr. Castorina will not yield. Mr. Davila, why do you rise? Mr. Castorina, will you rise?
Not at the moment.
You will not yield there. Ms. Jaffe, will you? You will not, I presume.
moment.
He's not yielding. Okay.
I urge you all to look at this under the prism of life, of the value of human life, and to separate. You don't have to make a religious argument. You don't have to make an argument based on...
Mr. Levine, why do you rise?
Will the speaker yield?
Not at the moment.
It's not yielding at the moment.
You don't have to make a decision on this issue looking through the prism of a woman's right to choose, whatever that means. This is language that has been
Ms. Harris,
created.
why do you rise?
Yield?
No, and I'll just keep on going if...
I think everybody should rise.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Ms. Titus, will you rise?
Mr. Speaker.
No, yes, Mr.
I think the gentleman has indicated he doesn't wish to yield the floor. I think multiple members getting up to ask him to do it isn't going to be very productive. We'd let the gentleman have his time, and then people can address the bill or address whatever they want to in appropriate order here.
And Ms. Cohen?
Thank you. I just want to support the majority leader in this regard. I think it's important that we all kind of catch a breath, collect ourselves for a second. It's an important discussion, but I think we can do it in a very civil, very calm way. So I think we need to just all take a second and breathe.
While both of the leaders are correct, it would appear the body does not concur because they are all standing. And so since the rules allow them to have the right to ask someone to yield, we would be required to ask them why they rise.